Okay, welcome everybody to today's Cabinet meeting here at Newcastle Borough Council. I'd like to welcome Cabinet members in the room, and particularly a warm welcome to Councillor Andy Fear, who's joining us on the Cabinet. This is his first meeting. This is a first meeting for all of us since the election. So I welcome Councillor Andy Fear, who's the new portfolio holder for strategic planning. We've also got Councillor Jill Waring, who's the portfolio holder for culture and heritage. Trevor Johnson, welcome back, portfolio holder for environment and recycling. And then Jill Heeson, portfolio holder for community safety and wellbeing, and deputy leader, Councillor Stephen Sweeney, who's also got the portfolio holder for finance, town centres and growth. And I'm leader Simon Tagg. Welcome to our officers in the room. We've got apologies from our chief executive today who can't make it, but wish him all the best in his recovery. And also welcome those people that are viewing online this afternoon on YouTube. If you'd like to see the agenda, there is a link below for you to look at the agenda, which we're going to go through today. And the first item on our agenda is apologies. There are none. We have all Cabinet members here. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Do you have any declarations from members for any items on the agenda? Not seeing any. Thank you. Item 3 is minutes to the previous meeting, which was held on the 20th of April. They're attached on page 3 to 4. Can we agree those as a correct record? Thank you. First item of business then is a Wallace Quarry update. First of a new council year, and we're starting as we left off with an update on the Wallace Quarry situation that's causing so much impact to our residents and has done for the last couple of years. We've got a report that's in the usual format, which takes us through the issues to do with the statutory nuisance, to do with the complaints data, to do with their monitoring, and also the actions of the Environment Agency and other council action that we are considering. There's also a report attached, which is comparisons of the ambient air quality data from the Gallingale View, which is an Environment Agency document. I'm going to ask Dave Adams just to take us through the highlights of the report. Over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Joe. So, yes, Cabinet have received monthly updates on the issues relating to the odours, and the report on your agenda today is the latest update. So firstly, in respect of the statutory nuisance legal process, previous Cabinet meetings, Cabinet have been advised of the ongoing preparation process, its component parts and the timetable, which leads to a formal hearing currently scheduled to start in October of this year. Work is currently progressing at pace to complete the disclosure process and stage, and that, of course, is the exchange of documents that have a bearing on the case. A further disclosure hearing has been scheduled for the 14th of June to deal with any remaining disclosure issues. This is not expected to delay the overall timetable. In respect of the most recent complaints data, complaints to the council are currently at their lowest level that they have been since early February this year, and complaints to the Environment Agency reflect a similar picture. In respect to the air monitoring data, readings from the static air monitoring stations are at a relatively low level, at a level that was probably previously seen during the autumn of winter last year, prior to those spikes that were experienced in January and then again late February through to April of this year. This is also supported by the deployment of our portable Jerome monitoring devices. Whilst the reduction in complaints and hydrogen sulfide threshold exceedances are, of course, good news, there is also that note of caution that should be applied, but it is not possible at this stage to say whether this is a result of the additional capping and gas capture operations undertaken on the site, or whether it's a reflection of the current climatic conditions that at this time of the year aid the dispersion of gases from the landfill. Staying with the gas emission aspect for a moment, in para 4.4 of the report, it details an evaluation of measurements taken at MMF9, which is the Gallingale monitoring station, between March and April last year and the same period this year, that's been completed by the EA. That report is detailed, the detailed report is attached to the appendix, is attached to the report as an appendix. in summary, the EA have found that this year there were reduced complaints compared with last year at the same period. They also found that the annoyance threshold was exceeded less this year than in the same period last year, and also that the concentrations of hydrogen sulfide in the gas being emitted by the landfill have reduced compared to the same period last year in same period as well. I think, again, it's important to say that on the face of it, this could be good news and potentially indicates that good progress in curtailing the odours escaping the site is being made. But the EA also acknowledged that it's not possible to quantify how much of the differences between the 2 years is influenced by the operations on the site and how much by other variables such as the prevailing met conditions. Turning lastly to consideration of further action by the council, at your last meeting, you requested the creation of an additional body which would provide political oversight of and constructive challenge to work being undertaken under the umbrella of the Multi-Agency Strategic Coordination Group, the SCG. And the SCG have agreed to that request, and the terms of reference for such a group are currently being finalised. At your last meeting, you also tasked officers with a further review of any alternative legal avenues that might be available to the council in order to accelerate the progress with addressing the problems being experienced by the community. Officers are undertaking this review and will advise Cabinet at its July meeting on whether there are any further alternative options that it can take, or whether it can support any actions that others might be taking. Cabinet are recommended to note the contents of this update report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. We'll go through the report section by section. First of all, the statutory nuisance update that is in the report. I think we have a clear sort of timeline there now for this, with the date for this trial, with a pre-trial review taking place on the 30th of September. So I think, again, as we always say for this item, we're doing all that we can within timescales that the court has specified. That is, timescales are outside of the council's obviously gift to bring forward or to move back. That is the courts that do that. Any questions on the to Dave, or any comments on the statutory nuisance process? No, steady as she goes, information being provided and exchanged, and obviously a good case we believe the council will be able to put forward. Looking at the complaints data and air monitoring stations, we'll take those two together. I mean, it's quite clear from the data that, you know, that the odours have become less apparent over the last couple of weeks, but that is after a major spike during the months previous to that, as you pointed out, Dave, and also after Christmas. And I think, as we can see, you know, from the Environment Agency enforcement action, they're still issuing enforcement notices up until the 10th of March on various aspects of this development. So I think we're nowhere near out of the woods, and we thought we are having improvements previously, but we've ended up back where we started with a massive odour problem affecting people not only that live around the side, but wider. So, you know, I'm not convinced yet that this situation is sorted, or is even started to be sorted. And again, it requires the Environment Agency to keep this operator to account and to the fire to ensure that those odours are stopped. Open it up for any sort of questions or comments on that, Steve.
I mean, the latest figures do look better, but if you have a look on there, 4.4, it says annoyance threshold exceeded 36.4% during the 2021 period and 20.1% for the 2022 period. So, I mean, it's a decent fall, but if the 20.1% was like 1 or 2%, you'd think you were getting there. It's still 20%. So it's 1 in 5. And it's still an appalling situation. It just shows what a struggle it is. And it also shows how important it is that this report comes to this cabinet every month at the first item on it, because it's still there. It's still a major problem. Have we, this is the last section of it. Yeah. The question I've got really is the lorry parking on Cemetery Road. Yeah. Oh, we're going to come on to, okay, I'll let you do it. No,
comments on the monetary data?
About section 4. Have we reached section 4? Section 3 and 4. Yeah. In that case, yeah. Just start. I'm looking at 4.13, which is a little bit disappointing, isn't it? So this is the EA's failure to maintain their monitoring equipment. And I noticed they say that there was an electrical fault on the 6th of May. We were unable to access the landowners until the following day when power was restored. And then they go on to say, and these things are not a million miles apart, are they? There's a power interruption in the early hours of Saturday the 7th. That's the same day as they came to fix the previous one. And yet then there's power was restored on the 9th. So there's 2 days of missed data at that point. It's over a weekend, and I'm sure we're all mindful of the fact that one of the most terrible incidents in the past was directly an outage of this sort. And it's, to me, a little bit disappointing that the EA aren't on the ball with that and making sure that that sort of thing doesn't happen again.
Good point, Andrew. Yeah, I think again we've discussed around this table before the problems we've had with the EA and their enforcement of this site, whether it's from setting up equipment, whether it's carrying out visits, or whether it's actually taking the actions which they were able to do as the permit regulator, and that really brings us on to considering further action by the council part of the report, and thank officers for the work they've done on setting up the group. And I think it will be a high level group which will have political representation from the key agencies, and also believe the EA have confirmed that they will come to that, so there can be direct political oversight of this, which I think has been lacking, which I touched on at the last cabinet meeting, and has been very frustrated for particularly councillors just to have to hear secondhand the information that the SCG is discussing, when it should be, elected members then are in the front line of having to deal with the public over this. Also, I should say that this group will have our Member of Parliament in attendance too. So I think it's got the right people around the table to not only hold the EA to account and the other partners, but also to be able to feed back better to the community as well. So we hope for those to be set up and for to be finalised, the terms of reference. Secondly, on the issues to do with what further action we can take against the regulator, the Environment Agency, I look forward to that report in July. I think there's some interesting things we could do to support the community, and we'll have more to say on those in the future, and particularly taking it to full council as well, for full council to have a view as well later in the year. So I think there's something there we can look at, and to play our role as obviously the leaders of the community, with helping our residents to get some resolution to this. And we should use the offices of the council where we can to do that. And I think through what has been outlined initially by Dave there for a future report will help us to do that as we go forward. The issue to do with the lorries, which isn't a borough council issue because we're not the Highways Authority and we're not obviously the police, but there are a lot of complaints at the moment and videos of lorries that are stacking outside there. Initially, my view is, and I think it actually is borne out by what the laws are, is that it should be the police that act on this because it's an obstruction of the highway. There are calls for the company to put in a planning application to allow lorries to then go on site because there's enough room from the entrance down to the weighbridge and probably beyond for vehicles to wait before they actually go to dump when the site opens at 7 a.m. So there's that possibility, but we rely on the operator to put an application in, rely on the police to actually enforce the existing rules. There is a petition currently circulating, which will come to the county council rather than to the borough council, asking for a red route or restrictions to be put down Cemetery Lane. At the moment, highway officers are saying they wouldn't want to do that because that would then push the lorries further away and possibly into residential streets in Thistlebury, Poolfields, and in Silverdale and Nutton as well. So we've got to look at this in the round and see what the impact will be of pushing this traffic by putting a red line. I'm not giving a view against or for that at the moment. I think we need more data on that to see what would happen. And I think that needs to be modelled by the county highways in response to the petition, which will be submitted in the future. But I think really, for me, I think this is something the SCG political group can look at, is to get the police to take more action within their powers of obstruction, because I think they need to start moving people along, businesses, operators who are leaving their lorries outside, waiting for the site to open at that hour, just as the rush hour is starting. I think it's causing a lot of traffic problems. And as a lot of people are saying, an accident waiting to happen when you see some of the videos of cars having to swerve around in a busy road when our lorries like on the way to the Channel Tunnel all stacked up down Cemetery Road. So it's something that needs to be resolved. But there is a route forward in a couple of ways. One is that the plan application from the operator, which has been urged on them to do. And also, I think, police action, then also investigating, what can happen with some restrictions along there that wouldn't cause the problem to be moved to other areas, possibly residential areas or nearer to schools. So open up to comments, Steve?
I agree entirely. The Cemetery Road is actually quite a busy road, and when there's lorries parked up all alongside, as well as the lay-by, but along the road as well, it's a major problem getting past it. I know a couple I know had their car quite badly damaged because it got squeezed between two lorries, a lorry parked and a lorry driving. And here's something that needs looking at. But I agree with the red routes are all very well, but where this lorry is going to park. So I think looking at the site and changing the planning so they can stack them up inside the bay is probably the most sensible lot, I think.
And this requires the operator to be a good neighbour and to respond to public concerns. So we await them doing that. The ball is in their court in that respect. A plan application can come in and it can go through the correct channels to be either agreed or not agreed and debated and be publicly taken through a planning committee, possibly at the county council, and that would be the correct route for it to go. Any more comments on the lorry issue or any other parts of the report? Not seeing any. We've got a recommendation for us that we note the contents of this update report, and we will receive one at our July cabinet, as outlined by Dave, with an update on the legal options open to us to hold not only the operator to account, but also the Environment Agency, who this council thinks has failed and has repeatedly put forward that case. And I don't think anything over the last few months has made us think any different to that. And as Andy's pointed out, the basic errors on the monitoring equipment again have come to the fore, which have become a problem in the past and are still a problem. So all agreed the report? Thank you. Next item, item 5, is the Climate Change Sustainability Base Pledge. And Trevor is going to introduce this. Over to you, Trevor.
Leader. It's proposed across our county that all local authorities are committed to a similar strategy related to our 10 base pledges. A brief synopsis of these pledges is as follows. We have baseline analysis and reporting, carbon literacy training and awareness for all councillors and senior management. All members will be encouraged to act as climate change ambassadors. 4, we've got green travel planning, and council will support green travel by members, employees and communities. 5, we've got communications, where councils will contribute to a county-wide communications plan working to drive our net zero vision forward throughout the county. On green energy, all councils will commit to producing 100% green energy for electricity as soon as possible. Energy reduction. By January 2023, all councils will have established plans to reduce energy consumption across their estates. And 8, low carbon fuel vehicle fleets, establishing a plan to move to low carbon fuel by 2030. On waste and recycling, by 2025, a county-wide strategy will be in place that all authorities will use. I make a note here that I think the whole county will be adopting our framework at the borough on this. And then we have innovation and technology, working collaboratively with research institutions and partners. Councils will encourage innovation and technology development to assist in our delivery of our combined net zero vision. And a couple of points I'd just like to make, that we at Newcastle Borough Council will be commencing with biodiesel trials within the next few weeks. Our solar farm proposals are looking very positive. We are seeking a second meeting with Keele University to see how we can collaborate in developing hydrogen fuel. And we do have a sustainability officer now appointed and in post, which is Rachel Cleary. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Trevor. Really pleased that this is coming to the cabinet here at the Newcastle Borough in tandem with all the other districts, and the county council. We're bringing it a week on Wednesday to their cabinet to agree the same base pledge. And this is the first time in the environmental and sustainability arena that all of our councils have pledged to work together. We all have the same problems, and as you just pointed out there, Trevor, we're actually ahead of the game on number 9, aren't we? Waste and recycling. And we are one of the leaders across the county, whether that's through food waste or through our dual system, which has been adopted now across the county. On carbon literacy training, everybody put their hand up on Cabinet who's done the carbon literacy training. And then I'm looking to our senior officers also to put their hands up. Yes. So as you can see, our senior executive team and also all cabinet members have now done the carbon literacy training. What we intend to do is now cascade that down through the organisation, and a part of the induction for new members. We've got one of our new members actually here today from the town ward. Welcome. All our new members will be taking part in that online training course as well, so we can across the authority and roll it out to our staff right down to the front line. And those that have done it, I think we'll say it's a good exercise to go through, and it's a learning exercise, but also it's a multiple, sort of a question and answer and a learning exercise, and it really puts you in the place of thinking about the issues to do with creating carbon zero and a sustainable environment. So I think that's really good. I think also a lot of these from one to 9 stuff we're doing already, but also they're setting themselves some strict targets now, which are going to be matched across the county. I think that's what we need, particularly for Newcastle, which as members will know, a lot of councils have set a 2050 target for the council. We've set a 2030. So we are, in the front line on this. We've got our plans through our sustainable environment strategy to help us deliver a carbon neutral council by 2030, and we've got a plan that we're working on for that. And this will help us to work with our neighbours in other authorities, such as Staffordshire Moorlands, which have got a 2030, such as Cannock, where we can swap information, swap learning, use of officers that specialise in various bits of this agenda that we don't. We can actually tap into that brain of officers. Whereas an officer group is working on this through what is called the Sustainability Board, which has representatives, political representatives from across the county, including Trevor, who represents Newcastle on that as well. So I think it's a really good commitment to set up to, and I endorse it completely, and open it up for comments from members. Steve.
Yeah, what you say. I mean, I think that the most most sensible thing with it is it's in all councils working together across Staffordshire. It's got full buy-in from every authority, which I think is excellent. Thank you.
Any other comments? Jill, Waring.
Thank you, Lee. Just quickly, I think we should be doing as much as we can to reduce climate change and set an example to all other organisations within the borough. So it's a good report, and I support all the pledges. I think it's excellent. Thank you.
Any other comments from cabinet members? No, I think just lastly on number 10, the innovation and technology. I think as Trevor will know, the Sustainability Board has first decided to concentrate on the planning side of it, and energy efficiency for homes, etc. And for example, when we build new homes, we should already be building them with that 2030 deadline in place. So what planning officers are doing across the county is working on a joint set of proposals which we can put into our local plan. As it happens, we're just doing our local plan, so it works for us. Or the councils will have to either do supplementary planning guidance or reopen their local plan, which a lot of planning to do, to put in extra rules around house building to ensure we get the right energy efficiency boilers in from the start, that we plant trees on in the gardens, etc., and that we do all the other things to ensure that they are already meeting the targets we want to, rather than having to retrofit them later, which will be an extra cost. Will also mean we're not meeting our targets later on towards the end of the decade. So that's a really important one that we are working now with our district colleagues and the county council to ensure that we are ahead of the technology, and we're also ahead of the game when it comes to getting to where we want to be, which is as a council carbon neutral by 2030. So the recommendation is before us, moved by Trevor, is that we adopt the 10 base pledges set out in the report, and the council has to facilitate action in the base pledge through its membership of the Sustainability Board that covers all of Staffordshire districts and county. All agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Next item is a One Council programme update. We've been regularly bringing these. Obviously, the One Council programme was born out of really the COVID experience and the need, obviously, for us to make savings in the short and medium term. So we've got a One Council programme that has already delivered on the savings in its first year and is well on the way to delivering the savings in the second year, which will help the budgets. But it's more than that. It's also about a new sort of focus on customer services for the council through what's called the One Front Door and use of the website, use of our customer services staff, use of our main reception here for a better service for local residents. So when they contact the council, they get there to where they need to go. They get whether they want a garden waste collection signing up to, or whether they want planning advice, or whether they want to report litter, or whether they wish to report fly tipping, that's done in an efficient way. The next step is to ensure that the back office, the stuff behind that, all works in a One Council way. In other words, efficiently, cost effective, so that then is, for example, the litter is picked up, the fly tipping is done, the planning advice is given, so on. So this update outlines obviously the launch of the One Front Door that took place last autumn, and then goes on to touch on the leadership and management implications, the multifunctional teams that will be rolling out, and the performance team and strategy team, the brain of the council at the middle, which will guide further the One Council project as it moves forward. And I think we all know that the budget's going to be tight again this year. We know that the cost of living is going to be affecting, as we know inflation is rising. I think the One Council savings will stand us in good stead to help us to do our balanced budget at the end of the year, and also keep to our commitment to keep council tax rises below 2%. Interestingly, on page 39, operating model, you will see how the new operating model actually works in practice within the council under the three directorships: Chief Executive, Executive Director for Sustainable Environment, and the Executive Director for Growth and Development. You'll see how all of the various departments of the council fit in. I mean, for members of the council particularly, and new members as well, this just shows as a grid of how the council is run and who to go to on various issues. But for the public, we have that One Front Door, and I think they can be reassured when they do make a complaint, when they do make a request for a service, that it's dealt with efficiently at the first point of contact, and that behind the scenes the council is shipshape and ready to deal with those and deal with those issues and get them resolved as soon as possible, whether they be a legal issue, whether they be a issue with a community centre, whether it be a street scene issue, whether it be a planning issue, whether it be a problem with the town centre, or whether it's something to do with the leisure or the sports facilities the council operates as well. The idea of One Council is that it's a slick service for the public that gets results and also makes efficiency savings where possible. So I will hand it over now to Steve for comment.
Yes, thanks, Lee. Yeah, slick and efficient service and also make savings. Now, speaking to the officers, they're very, very confident they will achieve the savings that we desire. So a slick service to our residents, and it saves money. So I think everyone is a winner, as the saying goes. Thank you.
Any other comments from Cabinet members? Jill?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'm really glad to see it's progressing as well, it says, and I would like to see it rolled out over other areas of the council. I would like to see more interaction with Kidsgrove Town Council, if that's possible. There are going to be some changes there, and hopefully the two councils will be able to work more closely together in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. I think that's a good point over Kidsgrove Town Council. I feel now there's a fresh start in relations between the borough and the town council, and there are many ways we can work together in Kidsgrove. We've been working really well with the town council the last few years over the town deal. I think that's really reset the relationship. I think, as you're quite right, our customer service operation in Kidsgrove should be, working closely with the town council, and hopefully now we can do that. I mean, Andy, any comments on planning? Of course, not local plan. I think about planning delivery, and we're coming on to the stats later. They're very good, but I think to keep that going forward is really important as well. And the team, other than street scene, I think the planning team are probably the ones that most interact with the public when it comes to planning applications. And any comment?
No, I do agree entirely that it's important that front door, which many members of the public walk through, is one which is welcoming and efficient and effective. By and large, I think that it's fair to say that is the case. We do have targets for these things. Most of them are hit. One's the very good news targets, I think, to come later in this meeting. Those that aren't quite so good, we are working on at this moment to try and make sure that they get improved.
Any other comments? Nope. So got the One Council update. Thank you very much for officers to providing that. There is a One Council board that I chair, which is the internal board in the council that sees this project through, and that will be continuing to meet. Also later in the year again, I think scrutiny will be having a report on the One Council as part of an update to them so that they can scrutinise it, and that the general membership of the council, it will also be reported through to the leader's statement on a regular basis. It goes to full council, so all members will be able to comment, question on the One Council project. But the report before us is for note, and note the actions against those specific areas of the programme as detailed 1 to 6. All agreed? Thank you. Item number 7 is discretionary rate relief policy, and Stephen's going to introduce this.
Yeah, thank you. If you look at 2.2 on this, the previous policy was adopted in 2016 and did not give clear guidance on how the award was decided, nor give an indication on how much relief should be granted. Decisions are often based on historical information. I don't think that's a particularly satisfactory way of doing this. So this policy has been updated with a structured scoring mechanism to ensure fair and consistent decision making in the granting of discretionary relief. The chart they use is on this report as well, and I think it delivers a degree of stability. It's open, it's transparent, and I absolutely support it. I think it's a very sensible way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any comments from anybody else on the item before us? For me, I think it is sort of a tidying up exercise and puts a framework in place. And I think we've done really well of giving this discretionary release over the years. I can think of Kidsgrove Sports Centre will be benefiting from a discretionary rate relief policy. The Guildhall, run by support staffs, again, is a key part of keeping these buildings open and operating, is that we do ease the rate bill for these. And I think the more we can do that, the better. And I think through this policy, people can apply to that and do on a regular basis. And this just puts a framework in there which we can judge them by. And ultimately, again, there's no change to the head of finance and the portfolio holder being the final sign off for these, which I think is right and proper also. So recommendations before us as the Cabinet adopts the discretionary rate relief policy. All agreed? Thank you. And the next item, item 8, is Newcastle under Lyme 850th year celebrations in 2023. And Jill is going to introduce this.
Thank you, Leader. Well, we've just had the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations, and they were brilliant. And we've also got another great celebration next year, which is the 850th anniversary of the granting of the Royal Charter, which established the loyal and ancient borough of Newcastle under Lyme. A while ago, we set up a cabinet working group to look at a number of ideas of events that we could put on during the year, and we narrowed it down, and we think we've got a programme of events to cover the full year ahead. They are listed in the report, so I won't go over each one in detail. But we think that the events that we've come up with are fitting to our resources, and hopefully we can get the budgets to be able to fund these. One of the other things that the Cabinet wishes to do is to appoint a champion to see this through. And I can think of no one more suited to the position than the current Deputy Mayor, Councillor Simon White. He's extremely enthusiastic about this, and I wholeheartedly support the recommendation and think that he will be a great support and do the borough very proud. So I'm proud to endorse Simon White as the champion for this. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Jill. Yeah. We've come back online now. I think the last couple of minutes have been offline, but I think if the feed is back up, welcome back. We're going through our indicators. We just had a report back on Jill on the museum and J2. Is there anything further we need to add on that, Jill? No, anything that anybody else wants to add? No, okay, moving to our last indicator, which is a town centre for all. And this is sits primarily in mine and Steve's portfolios, but the two for yourself, Steve. Any comments?
No, the market's still doing well. It's still got room to grow, apart from the Artisan market, which is absolutely rammed. But there's some days when it's quiet, primarily Wednesday, I think. But the rest of the time, no, it's coming on very nicely. And I'd recommend anybody going on a Sunday when there's a market on to see what it offers, because there's a good atmosphere in the town. There's usually music on. There's loads of people around. It's a nice place to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, I think as we saw over the Jubilee weekend, the market was the market area was at the centre of the Newcastle celebrations, and really came into its own with all of the stalls, particularly early on in the Sunday was a bit of a washout because of the weather, but earlier on in the weekend we had all the flags draped over the stalls. We had the cinema screen with the trooping of the colour and all those types of things. The market really came into its own as the central focal point just outside the Guildhall, which was open throughout the weekend with a film being shown inside and a charity stall in there as well, and all the pom-poms and the flags were all draped inside the Guildhall. It was really good to see. So it's good to see that our market is back at the centre of things in Newcastle, and we'll do all we can to ensure those theme markets particularly are the ones, they're the way forward, aren't they? And we know that gets people into town, particularly on Sundays, which is tied in with the free parking on Sundays as well. So it shows that it works. I think it'll be a central focus of our 850th anniversary as well, and know that our markets and our town centre officer has a plan for further markets throughout the year and theme markets, which will bring people into the town as well. So again, footfall there is another indicator we're looking at here, and there's a slight decrease. I think we are, looking to be better in footfall than we were a couple of years ago pre-pandemic, and we want it to grow and grow and more people to come into town. And of course, the work that we're doing through the Future High Streets Fund and the town deals is for the development of the Rycroft and for the Midway and other parts of the town, is to bring more footfall into town, with more people working in town, more people coming in to enjoy the shops and the restaurants and the pubs as well. So that will increase footfall as we go forward, as the Future High Streets Fund developments take place, and also the town deal kicks in as well over the next couple of years, which will be delivered during this next 4-year term of this council. And I'm pleased to say that Steve, as the portfolio, working with cabinet members and working with our officers, will see that through and to completion for the benefit of our town. So any other questions on performance? I think we've got a quick run through, and we've discussed and monitored, and that concludes the item for today. All agreed? Next item is the forward plan, which is attached on 87 to 90, giving the details of the forward plan for Cabinet over the next 3 months. We'll quickly go through page by page. Page 88, any comments? That's mainly touching on today's, but also a couple of reports for July. Highlight there is that the UK Shared Prosperity Fund report will be coming on submission for grants of up to the £4 million the government has give for Newcastle as part of over £30 million across the county. More government investment in Newcastle, thanks to our Prime Minister for that. Next is the commercial strategy update, which will come to July, and also the local plans, issues and options consultation update, which will be a very important item to bring in July. And then we've got items for September there, as well as Warwick's Quarry update, the quarter one performance, the new council plan, which will be a landmark report which we bring, which will detail our plans for the council for the next 4 years after the elections taking place in May. And then last one there is the Kidsgrove Town deal. There will be other items that will come to fore over the next few months to come onto Cabinet, but at the moment, that is the forward plan. Do we all agree? Excellent, thank you. Item 11 is urgent business. I don't have any items of urgent business. Item 12 is disclosure of exempt information. I don't have any, so no need to go into private session. And then item 13 is attendance at Cabinet meetings. I haven't had any requests to speak at Cabinet, but thank you to the councillor that has attended, one of the new town ward councillors, and you're welcome to come to any Cabinet at any time. Thank you. And we don't have any requests from the public to speak or attend. So that includes our agenda for today. Thank you for